Hello and welcome to Uncommon Human Live, where high performance and impact intersect. We are excited to bring you stories about leadership development, goal setting, and achieving success in order to empower you to reach your highest levels performance. Today, our special guest is Mr. Travis Krauss. He comes to us from Las Vegas, Nevada. Travis is the founder and CEO of Adventure Combat Ops. Today, he brings us his story of pursuing his innovative idea to start a live-action roleplay experience that is taking the streets of Las Vegas by storm. Now, enjoy this game-changing interview.
You're too late. There you have it.
Hi, team, and welcome to another episode of Uncommon Human Live. With me today is the CEO and founder of Adventure Combat Ops, Mr. Travis Krauss. He currently lives in Las Vegas, Nevada, where he runs an amazing live-action role-playing event that allows people to become immersed with, the soldier of the times. Some people would say that games like Call of Duty and kind of the zombie craze have really kind of taken over pop culture. Travis has found a way to instrumentally infect that into your life. We're really excited to have him here today. I've known Travis for approximately 18 years of my life now, going on that. and he's absolutely been a great mentor and kind of example of what it takes to use hard work and innovative ideas to reach breakthroughs. All right, and he's absolutely going to tell us about that today. So with that, Travis, I want to welcome you to the show.
Thanks, man. I'm excited to be here, Jesse. So good seeing you again, too, as always.
Absolutely. We need to do it face-to-face here in the near future because I definitely want to come down and touch the magic there in Vegas.
No.
So with that, Travis, take a few minutes and just kind of tell us your story from where you grew up to what you're doing now, and then we'll go from there. Travis?
Grew up in small town nowhere, northern Idaho, and that's where my wife and I actually went to school together growing up. And right out of high school, went into the military, went down into the Rangers, 1st Ranger Battalion, none other than in Savannah. And I spent several years there, and then I tried out for what a lot of us refer to as the unit, which publicly is Delta Force, and went up there, spent several years up there. I was up there when the war started, so got a number of deployments under my belt with the unit, and then made the decision to get out. Got out from there, and I did a bunch of different things in the special ops community as an instructor, everything from a contractor to the GS side of the house before I got called over into the corporate sector to assist with business development. And I spent about 2 years working for a company with some good people, and then a group of us went off on our own, started our own defense contracting firm in 2009. And then in 2013, we came up with an idea to start a different company. It had nothing to do with the government, thank goodness. And that's what led us out here to Las Vegas, where we've been through evolutions and generational development, all crammed inside of 3 years of growth with adventure combat operations. And here we are.
Wow, that's powerful, Travis. And we tell everybody thank you for your service. It's definitely it's nice to find guys that are passionate about serving their country, and you absolutely did it during a time of war. So thank you. So, what is it about your breakthrough moment? All right, what is that energy that propels you to come up with really, a very unique idea? What was that? How did that unique idea kind of spur? What got it going? Was it what you saw in pop culture? Did you do market research with people that you ran across? How did you just kind of like think of it and then, oh, by the way, then launch it?
Truth be told, I am the perfect example of how you don't want to start a new business, as far as how we started Adventure Combat Ops, which we refer to in short as ACO. With my other company, defense contracting firm, doing a lot of stuff in special ops community. I mean, we're passionate about it. We really want to make a difference there, but the government is not the best entity to do business with. It's just not a whole lot of fun. Love it when we're on the ground with the boys. Don't love it when we have to go through the whole, contract procurement process. About 3 years ago, one of our guys who's been with me, he's worked for me for years. His name's Nick. He's the one that kind of came up with the ACO concept. And of course, again, it's evolved generations since then, for goodness sakes. But, he said, hey, we're the best at what we do, for goodness sakes. And people love to come play with us. We can't do that with, the defense firm. So let's start a new company, man. Let's give people an opportunity to come experience a little taste of our world. Let's mix in, the big trend of zombies and all that craziness going on right now, and built this full immersion scenario. So it's just like being thrown into a video game, man. And so that's where it all came from.
That's powerful. You talk about Nick, and I got to meet Nick during some of the other jobs that I've worked with. When you met him, how did you know, I want this guy a part of my tribe for the long term?
Because the dude was on fire. I mean, the guy, there's certain people when they walk into a room, you think, man, I can't wait until they walk out of the room. Then there's other people when they walk in the room, you can feel their energy. That's Nick. He's maxed out on the extrovert scale. He's excited. He's constantly thinking about things. And he's one of those guys where you got to just make sure you don't get in his way. And you just got to give him a whole bunch of junk to play with, because he comes up with the craziest ideas. And so, I love people that are innovative like that have constant energy, as opposed to somebody who is minimalistic, which unfortunately, in my opinion, is a lot of our society. Hey, what's the least amount I need to do in order to get paid? And then, just keep my job and go home at the end of the day and watch TV. And he's the opposite of that. So, the guy's, he's got an energy about him that you want around.
No, absolutely. I mean, I ran into the guy a dozen times in my life, and, I just want those moments to keep going. He just bleeds energy. Like, you leave a conversation with that guy a better person. So that leads me to this. All right. During the hard times and those obstacles you had, what tools or what people were there to help you keep the mission going as you were taking this massive action?
What people, like, specifically?
Well, who in your tribe, who in your network, because I know a little bit about your story, but this thing just didn't take off like a rocket right from Jump Street. Who were those people that really just said, "Hey, let's stay with it. Let's keep on track. We're 3 feet from gold right now.
Yeah.
How do we keep putting the pick in the dirt?"
So the two things that I've noticed, two of the traits that are more character traits than personality traits by far, but two of the most important traits I've noticed and who I want to keep around me. Number one, those who are selfless, and there's so many people that think they are, and they're not. They're not. They've got a personal agenda of some sort. It's selfish. It's human nature to be selfish to an extent, and I get that. That's a programming default we all have as human beings. But if you recognize that, then you can combat that, and that's kind of a defaulted mental state. But the heart will always overcome that. And so I am curious to watch and see who truly is selfless, who truly is about making the world a better place, and understands that they're going to have to be uncomfortable, they're going to have to make sacrifices, and that the story is not the story is bigger than them. The vision is bigger than them as an individual, and collectively, I'm looking for people that want to build a legacy. They want to do something that hasn't been done. They want to do something that's going to impact a lot of other people and help other people and make a difference. And so I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that selfless character trait in them. And is it truly their heart, or are they someone that just politicizes it? They're doing it because they want people to think that. In other words, comes back, in that case, they are selfish. They're self-promoting in a way. And then the second thing is, how do I know that that's genuine? And here's the key. How do I know that it's genuine as opposed to a stinking show, which I've seen a lot of show voters out there that claim to be selfless? It's real simple. They ask a lot of questions. They're all about growth. They're all about, as hard as it can be sometimes for some of us to accept mistakes, they're all about going, man, I screwed up. Okay, what's the takeaway from this? And they're all about trying to figure out how to become a better person, and then ultimately how to better those around them from asking questions and learning, as opposed to trying to tell you everything they think they already know. Those are the ones that are big liabilities, in my opinion.
Man, Travis, that's brilliant. So, do you want to surround yourself with entrepreneurs, with the entrepreneur spirit, or do you want to surround yourself with business owners with the business owner spirit?
That's a really good question. And I've got one of my neighbors, a great guy named Tony, super successful, owns a number of different companies at various levels. And I made the comment to him one time where we're discussing the difference between entrepreneurs and business owners. And he kind of stopped for a second. He looked at me. And actually, I touch on this in one of the universities came and did a video on us about a year ago, as a matter of fact. And it's interesting looking back on it. But it's on the Adventure Combat Ops YouTube page, and I think it's entitled The Interview. But I discussed the difference between business owners and entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs are the ones that are just constantly thinking of the crazy ideas, and a successful entrepreneur has to surround themselves with the proper business people, the proper business professionals. In my opinion, there's a difference. One's not better than the other, but really it takes both. And I've seen business owners, though, that have a very difficult time kind of thinking outside the box. And that's so cliche, because I love it when people have to tell you, oh man, I think outside the box. Because first off, if you have to tell somebody something, if you have to self-affirm to somebody else, probably not quite as strong there as you think you are, number one. But number two, my response is always, what box? And they just kind of look at me. And I've actually had people say, well, no, it's just a cliche. And I look at them, I'm like, no, I get it. You're missing it. I don't even know what box you're talking about. But coming kind of back on track with your question, business owners and entrepreneurs, I think they're absolutely super imperative. An entrepreneur needs to surround themselves with business-minded people to keep them, grounded, to make sure everything gets done, effectively, efficiently, successly. Unfortunately, I've seen some business owners that have a very difficult time, though, breaking that conventional paradigm and, kind of having the mindset of thinking just off the chain, unleashed and unconventionally. And, when a duck gets out of line, the whole world falls apart on them.
Mm-hmm. No, that's solid gold right there, brother. Hey, this is going to be kind of a two-part question here, but most people don't yet have the resources to take an idea like yourself and really make it a global event. I know you're only, one show right there in Vegas. But I think you did do kind of like brand market testing across the US. Can you explain, where the resources might have fell short in making your company success right out of the gate?
A ton. I made so many mistakes that it's scary. It's horrifying, coming right out of the gate. And the first one was not doing proper research. Now here's the thing. You and I both know this, guys from the community. We love this saying, and that is the greatest plan, the best plan, the most solid plan never survived first enemy contact, right? And so you've got to find the fine balance between you need to plan effectively, you need to prepare effectively, but at the same time, having the perfect game plan, waiting until you have the perfect game plan is like waiting for all the lights to turn green before you head to work in the morning. It isn't going to happen. So you come up with the best plan you can, the most efficient plan, and then you just got to go and figure it out along the way. We've got a film crew here right now. My son's actually involved with them. They're putting a video together, and there's just all sorts of stuff going wrong. And he made the comment to me earlier this morning, as a matter of fact. He said, it's just stuff that you couldn't have foreseen. And so with that being said, that's always going to be that way. So to continue to think that you're going to be able to plan ahead and second and third order effects and contingencies and everything, you're just wasting your time. So again, coming back, you need to plan as effectively and efficiently as you can. You need to ask a lot of questions, but you also are going to, you need to realize you're going to have to make a lot of mistakes along the way to learn, and you just need to get going. In my case, I just did not know what I didn't know. And unfortunately, hindsight being 2020, I can look back on all the mistakes I made saying, oh man, I should have done this and I should have done this and I should have done this. However, I had no way of knowing then. And the only way I know now, the only reason I know now is because I dove in and just started screwing stuff up and then had to fix it.
Yeah, I've heard people say, commit first, figure out the details later.
Yeah.
And, I think a lot of people spend a lot of their really powerful years just figuring out the details because they're too afraid to commit. And most of those people become, business owners.
You're absolutely right. I can't tell you, Jesse, how many times I've had people tell me, even this year, oh man, I thought about that. Oh man, I wish I would have done that. And it just pisses me off. I'm like, you know what? Shut up. There's no corner market. There's no monopoly on great ideas. There's 330 million great ideas every day in this country. One for every person. It's not a matter of being the genius comes with a great idea. It's what you just said. It's a matter of having the stinking backbone and the huevos to stink and commit to it and be willing to risk some stuff and be uncomfortable and screw a lot of stuff up.
Yep, absolutely. So without some of those resources that you talked about, what did you do in terms of resourcefulness to make this dream become a reality?
I go back to something, a life lesson that's so simplistic that sticks with me. One of my high school years, junior year, I think maybe senior, I don't recall. My father and I are outside building this huge deck on the entire, it spanned pretty much the whole face of the house, this huge deck, and it had these huge support beams and all sorts of stuff. My dad and I are building it. I mean, it's something that a lot of people would contract out. And it's my dad and I were building it. I had no clue what I was doing, right? Well, how do you learn? You learn by doing, number one. But number two, I remember I was so overwhelmed at the thought of, oh my gosh, in a year I'm going to be on my own and I don't know how to do this stuff. And I remember looking at my dad and I said, Dad, gosh darn, I couldn't build my own deck, and in a year I'm going to be on my own. How do you know how to do this stuff? How am I going to learn? And he looked at me and he said, by asking questions, network. There's so much more to be said about somebody who knows a little about a lot versus a lot about a little. And part of that knowing a little about a lot comes with the connections as well. See, for me, the reason I'm so insanely competent and confident is not because of what I know, but who I know. I know that no matter what hiccup I come across every single day, there's at least 212 of them every single day, I can pick the phone up and resource the information on that. And that is the difference maker right there. So resources are all about being able to just go find the answers as you need them, not trying to be able to determine them up front before you even get going.
So that's a powerful statement. I mean, essentially you talked about two things. You're like, I build a network of people who have figured it out. They are already successful in certain portions of my space. Your business has, it probably encompasses about, 20 different systems. So you're telling me that you've built a network. What you said, I want to go find the most powerful guy in media relations and network with him. I want to go find the most powerful guy in, video production and network with them, makeup, equipment, finance. Is that what you're saying you did, after you realized you had not developed that team first?
Well, it's interesting because yes and no. Yes and no. It really, I will preface my response with this. You attract who you are, not what you want. So the most important aspect was I had to, and I'm continually trying to become somebody better. And I had to be somebody that people more successful than me had some sort of interest or in associating with, or they were willing to give their time to me. Because one thing I've learned about successful people, they don't stink and joke around, man. They are protective of their time, money, and resources. And it's one thing to be, somebody who's out seeking for a handout, who's out seeking a handout on, charity operations or charity opportunities. Charitable opportunities. It's another thing to just be somebody that successful people truly see. They truly see the genuineness inside their heart, and they can look at them and say, okay, that's a person right there that's not looking for free handouts. They want to learn, but they're not here to say, oh, can you do this for me or help me with this here? They understand that information is the most, information to and from the right person, information is the most valuable commodity for any business owner or entrepreneur, as long as they understand the value of it.
It sounds to me like you spent more time building relationships than you did building these large networks that people seem to be so proud of. Hey, I've got this many followers on X, or, this many connections on this social medium, or this many friends on this one. It sounds to me like what you were saying just now was, I'm going to take my time to develop relationships that I'm going to be able to give back to that person who's given to me, but also I might need something in return in the future.
110%. Absolutely. That right now, no kidding, out of everything in my life, whether it's money, whether it's lack of money, whether it's material or tangible resources, whether it's, property, whatever the case may be, the most valuable thing in my life are a very small number of people. And most of them are not even directly tied to either one of my companies.
No, that's extremely powerful. A technique that was given to me was, know who your top 20 are. And these are 20 people that have nothing to do with your space.
Mm-hmm.
But these are people that when the chips are down and you need something, whether it's, just emotional, spiritual, psychological, just any type of advice and any problem that you could be having, you can look at that top 20 list, and there's probably 5 guys on there that you should have already called, because you wouldn't be in the problem that you're having right now.
That's a fact. Absolutely a fact. I heard you throw and then I'll go that too. I pity people that don't have faith in a higher power. I'm not going to sit here and talk about one religion versus the next, but I pity people, because that means they think they're the top of their pyramid. And so with that being said, how, all this correlates and ties into the one of the simplest books in the stinking Bible, man, is Proverbs. And what's it say in there? It doesn't talk a lot about, hoard money. It doesn't talk in there about hoarding time, which time's very important. It's probably second most important commodity in my life. But it talks about wisdom. It's very simply, it doesn't say in there, rob, cheat, beg, or steal. It says, though it costs all you have, get wisdom. And that's why, those very few quality connections that are diversified, like what you said, outside of my immediate space, that's why they're so incredibly important, because principles will always remain principles. Techniques will change every day, but principles will always remain principles. So even though Johnny over here may be in a different space, he's accomplished a lot, he's successful, he's got a good nucleus of people around him or her. And so the principles that they have learned directly correlate with the crap I've got to go through as well.
No, that's groundbreaking right there, my friend. More people need to hear that. And most importantly, more people need to live that way as well. Either if they're working in the corporate space, private sector, or as an entrepreneur, or just as a business owner, a franchisee. More people need to understand that, all we have in this world, when you take away all that, net worth, is the values that you bring to the table and how people see you on a daily basis. There were some things that me and you probably used to scream in the mornings in Savannah, Georgia, and it talks about those all the time, having that creed in your life. Yeah. Something we do here in my family, we've really done a kind of a big turnaround of, creating rhythms and routines and knowing what our virtues are for our family, and actually, instead of talking about them, writing them down, seeing the calendar, doing the planning. And it absolutely provided simplicity to my life, predictability, and it gave me leverage against all these other outside influences. So on that, Travis, I'd like you just to talk a little bit about what your either morning rituals are or your daily routine, so people can kind of hear that you probably don't wake up at 8 o'clock and you're back home by 4.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to tell you, I think routine is important, but you've got to maintain flexibility at the same time, because there's so many outside factors involved in pursuit of success, regardless of the industry or the space. There's so many outside factors involved that if you don't have the flexibility and you become too regimented, it's going to totally work against you. And so anyway, I read something one time, because I'll tell you, man, I'm not a morning person. I am not. I wake up in the morning, I'm tired, I'm stiff, I hurt, but I work late at night. And I read an article, I think it's a Business Insider about a year ago, and it talked about it. It said, hey, there's a lot of people that, preach, get up before the sun's up, and, that's where your opportunity, early bird gets the worm, blah, blah, blah. And that's great if it works for you. But if it doesn't work for you, it's counterproductive and it will work against you. So don't force it. If you're a night person, then relish it. The key, though, regardless of what your schedule is, so many people screw up in thinking that being busy equates to the pursuit of success, and it doesn't. There's a huge difference between being active and proactive, or busy versus productive. Continually rearranging everything on the shelf to make it more organized, though organization is important, the question you have to ask yourself is that going to help me get to where I want to get to? And so many people fool themselves. I can't tell you how many people are so stressed out in this world. Even my own staff sometimes are so stressed out and, we're so busy, we got so much going on. And I'm like, what are you so stressed out about? Let's look at this. And I actually have a number of my management, there's a few of them, I have them send me a COB report every single day, close of business report. And it's not to check up on them. It's really more for them than me. I need it for a macro level, so I know what's getting done and what still is yet to be accomplished. But it's more for them to look at. And if they've got 15 line items of things that they worked on throughout the day, which of those line items was building towards the bigger goal? If you tell me that, man, I worked my butt off, sweeping and mopping and this and that. Look, you need to keep a clean space, but that's why you're tired. And a lot of times too, people don't even know their own personality type, and there's certain personality types think themselves into a frenzy, and they're exhausted at the end of the day, and they didn't even get off the couch, but they spent all day long thinking themselves into exhaustion. And so, I see that stuff, and people just simply need to simplify their movements, and they need to honestly be able to evaluate the efficiency of them. So my schedule changes every day, man. Honestly, I really try to get up at a decent time, because for me, if I sleep in, sometimes I'm really tired, but if I sleep in, it honestly, it hurts my self-esteem a little bit. I feel like I wasn't productive, and I feel guilty about it. And I carry guilt with me throughout the day because I was cheating. I feel like I'm cheating myself, my family, my staff, my companies. And, you got to figure out what works for you. I will say this though. Regardless of where you fit it into your schedule, there are some absolute necessities. And within those necessities, they don't come every day, but you need to get them in there as much as you can. You need to be healthy. That includes not just working out, but diet. Not just diet, but working out to some extent. You've got to exercise. How much? You need to determine that. But I think exercise is so incredibly important. It does more than just physically. It helps with an emotional release. It helps physiologically. It helps chemically, which in turn spills over to hormonally. People that work out understand the importance of that. So you've got to be able to incorporate those little things in there. You've also got to understand where there's an 80-20 rule, right? Spend 80% of your time with your top 20 producers. Really, I think it's more like 90-10 in my opinion, right? But you've got to make time for those people as well, not just for their sake, but for my sake. Because if they're in my top 10%, it's good for me to get with them, because that means they're producers, they're ambitious, they're energetic, they're constantly thinking about new things. So, daily routine, I don't know if I really have a daily routine because I'm constantly all over the map, but I definitely have very important blocks that I try to check every day.
I tell you what I like about that the most, Travis, is, one of the things we say at Uncommon Human, and, I say in, a lot of my coaching as well, is do the routine things routinely. You talked about, you called it a close of business report. I bet you remember a day in your life where you're writing a sit rep every day to your boss. And I bet you remember a day that, hey, every day we're going to do PT because that sets the day off right. And every day, you're going to have this routine and it just keeps you in line. But what's powerful is you had this career before you became, an entrepreneur, and you just kept the things with you that made you successful. A lot of people say like, well, what got me here isn't going to get me there. Well, I mean, that's one way to look at it. But, at the end of the day, you were successful in your previous space and you just took those habits and those rituals with you. So I think that's powerful for people to hear, and especially with our listeners that are veterans transitioning. I think a lot of people that are veteran transitioning in the civilian sector, or if you're in civilian sector and you're going, to some other space, whether it's to be go to the corporate or private sector or become an entrepreneur or start a franchise, do those things that made you successful in your previous ridgeline. That's what's powerful. Find people that are successful, do what they do. So before we switch gears. Oh, sorry, Travis.
Again, say that last part again.
Find people who are successful and do the things that they do that made them successful.
It really is that simple. But the problem is so many people don't ask questions. They don't ask questions. And that's what it comes down to. Go find the successful people that are willing to give you their time and teach you. And you have to earn that up front first and foremost. And do what they do. Do what they've done. Absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I have, since I started my transformation 8 months ago, knowing that I was going to come into this next ridgeline of my life, this next chapter, I've been absolutely grateful that I've been able to surround myself with successful people and not necessarily copy them or make their words in which I speak, but just their habits, their routines, how they engage with people. When they say, hey, you should try this, I go and do it. I show up, I opt in, I take action. And I think that's what's kind of missing is, nobody's ever went out and really accomplished anything on their own, successful in life. I mean, the best golfer in the world has a coach sitting right next to him.
That's right.
They just call him something different.
Yep, that's right.
So that's just something that, I like to share. Travis, before we switch gears, I just want to ask one question. What's in store for you? What's the next big one thing coming up, if you want to share anything like that?
I honestly don't know. There's a mess of things on the table right now. I know that all of a sudden China popped up on the radar screen, and I'll leave it at that. You've got some really good people with high net worths, which I point that out not because of the zeros in their bank account, but high net worth because that means they're successful people that have already built their own legacies and have already learned a ton and made a big difference. And so people I look forward to learning from. But we've got a few of those people that have popped up on our radar screen as well that have been drawn to us and attracted at the uniqueness, but most importantly, the team that we built here, and they like that and they want to sew into that. So we've got a few of those people that are looking to get involved with us. So we like that. I'm looking forward to that. And then I tell you, man, I don't know because my life is so. I run Redline all the time, and honestly, I'm looking forward to the next several months being able to ease off a little bit finally. But my point with that statement is that 6 months ago, even 6 months ago, I would not have been able to tell you I'd be sitting where I'm sitting right now. 2 years ago, I'd have told you you're high if you said I was getting ready to move to Vegas. I had never had any plans to come to Vegas, so I don't have a solid answer for you yet. All I can say is sit and wait and watch. It's going to be exciting.
Man, we can't wait. Enjoy seeing your hustle, man. I mean, it's awesome. So Travis, I run an organization called Uncommon Human. Mm-hmm. What's your definition of what an uncommon human is?
An uncommon human, macro level, The superficial generic response, an uncommon human, is somebody who has uncommon accomplishments, right? Again, doesn't matter the space, but there's somebody that separated themselves from their habits, from their discipline, from their accomplishments. But the micro level, and I think the details of that response are, there's an uncommon human is uncommon first and foremost simply because of the way they think. And the way they think is derived from two things: their heart, and understanding it's not about them, in which case there's no room for ego. Because if you're really going to make a big difference and you really want to think differently from other people, you're going to go learn how to do that. And then the other aspect of that too is, so thinking differently is what is going to lead to different results than the norm, than this, like status quo is a cuss word in our office, despite status quo. Okay, so thinking differently starts from the disposition of the heart, but also the disposition of the mind when it comes to humility, not being afraid to make mistakes, not caring who gets the credit, and not caring if you have all the answers or not, but being willing to go out and find the answers.
Yeah, that's brilliant right there. Hey, here's a question for you. When was the last time you were absolutely outside of your comfort zone? And how did you kind of cope with that?
Is it safe to say every day? Like,
This morning.
How about this morning?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could give you various levels of discomfort and uncomfort. I can give you a ton of different examples. I can tell you though that I have not been relaxed and comfortable for over a year. And those closest to me could absolutely support that statement, and they don't even like it. Like, luckily I've got really good people that surround me that are patient, because the hell that I've gone through and I'm still continuing to go through, average people would have thrown the towel in on me a long time ago. Luckily I'm surrounded by really good people though that understand the disposition of my intentions here and what we're trying to accomplish thing, and they just continue to be supportive. But dude, it's every day is like that. Again, I could give you some definite specifics, but every time I get a call from an investor, every time every time we get a call from our corporate event, you know, that those are good things. But every time I get a phone call from I honestly can't even narrow that down.
Someone else wanting something.
Yeah, that's another big one. I can't tell you how many people come out of the woodworks in the last 6 months that want stuff. Remember I mentioned earlier about people looking for free handouts? Holy stinking crap, man. I'm all about charity and helping people out, but my gosh, there are so many people that have entitlement attitude around this stinking country that it not only hope for, but a lot of them expect free stuff. And man, I kind of got off track a little bit there, but every time we get a phone call from stinking IRS, man, because once you start, developing revenue, guess who starts looking at you? The people that can't figure out how to make money on their own. And yeah, I'll go ahead and say the federal government for one.
That's perfect. So, I know you got your teammate sitting right next to you there. What do you wish you knew 5 years ago that you would go back and tell yourself?
Wow. That is an intense question. What do I wish I knew 5 years ago? I tell you the truth, that's a double-edged sword, and I can get emotional about the response in that. That evokes emotion. So in a way, I wish I knew what I was going to go through. I wish I would have known. Probably the biggest thing that I'll say from a straight business standpoint: protect every single dollar like it's your last, because you don't know how long it may be your last. When you're an entrepreneur, you're putting a startup together, you never know, regardless of how confident you are. And even myself, there's always overconfidence with any entrepreneur or business owner in their startup, right? Always overconfidence. You need to be confident. The problem though is that confidence sometimes spills over too far into the overconfident range. And so I would definitely tell myself, you protect every single dollar. And the problem with that is everybody around you is going to call you a cheapskate. They're going to call you cheapskate. They're going to tell you what they need money for. Oh man, we need money for this. We need money for that. Whether it's something business internal trying to put it together, hey, we need money for vehicles. We need money for retail. We need money for web development, for marketing, this and that. But the bottom line is this: if it's not their money, they're never going to feel the pain nor have the responsibility that you will to sustain and protect those dollars that have to provide for everybody. Protect every dollar like it's your last, because that may be your last for a while, depending where you're at. Okay, so that's just straight the business sense. I wish I would have known more about that. However, like I said, it's a double-edged sword, because I'll tell you, Jesse, I've told a bunch of friends this in some intimate conversations. How's it going? You know, we start talking more and more. I've made this statement. Had I known what I was going to have to go through to get to where I'm at right now, and still going through, I would have chosen, hands down, without even a second consideration or second guessing it, I would have chosen to go through Ranger School and unit selection back to back twice. And that is not an embellishment. I would have gone through Ranger School, unit selection back to back twice before I would have gone through this. So had I had known what I was getting ready to go through, and I'm one tenacious dude, man, like my closest friends will tell me, you're the most tenacious guy in the world that we know. God wired me tenacious. It's a gift. I can't take credit for it. It's not a decision I made. It's just the way God wired me. But I'm going to tell you, even as tenacious as I am, I would have been absolutely horrified had I had seen what I was going to go through 2 to 5 years ago. I don't know if I would have been able to do it.
Wow, man. I will tell you, just for everybody out there watching this, you know, notice the fire that Travis brings to the table. And just imagine that if you're wanting to step out into a space right now, you know, do you have that in you right now? You know, if you do, you need to step outside the door and absolutely challenge yourself. But I just want everybody to see that right now that Travis has given us. He's absolutely putting his heart out there and showing the fire. I am extremely confident that this is how you walk into the door every morning. And when there's some, you know, crisis action planning that needs to happen, crisis management at your organization, you know, we can definitely see how you bring the team together and, you know, come up with a plan of action. So that's very powerful. Travis, you ready to move into the rapid fire portion?
Let's roll.
All right. When you think of success, who is the first person that comes to mind?
There are so many of them. That is such a challenging question. And I say, I can't really give you a rapid fire answer, because I know a number of people business wise that have accomplished huge things. And I can only imagine the crap they went through to get there. So whether it's a Tony Hsieh at Zappos, whether it's a Mark Cuban, right? I think of those people, but I don't know them personally. And I know people on a personal level, when it comes to success. You know, who do I think of when it comes to success? Honestly, a lot of the presidential candidates only, and it sounds weird. I try to stay with politics because it just pisses me off, but the crap that they've had to go through and I do bring this up simply because the election's going on right now, but the crap they've had to go through and continue to go through while running that race is absolutely immeasurable. Nobody would be able to understand the pressure, the stress, and just the constant beatdown that they get unless they went through it.
Chuck.
Yeah. Whittle.
What's that?
Whittle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another friend of mine, his name's Chuck Whittle. I think about this guy. He has built a huge empire. He's out of Orlando. He's a friend, kind of a mentor. He started from a guy when he was 18, 19 years old, stuccoing houses as a subcontractor for a contractor. He got screwed over when he was 19 or 20. And now the dude drives all the exotic cars, lives in the big houses, owns his own $20 million jet, because he said, screw that, I'm going to do this right. And the dude is, you know, he's in his mid 40s and he's just absolutely been slaying dragons for decades, not months, not even a couple years, decades.
Touching, brother. Okay. What is one book that you recommend, or a book that you've just had to give somebody and say, you've got to read this or you've got to listen to this?
Probably one of the most basic books across not basic, but it covers super important principles for everybody, regardless of the space, is simply How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. The book's on the national bestsellers list for 50 to 60 years. There's another amazing book called Good to Great, but it's very advanced. And I've met some military officers that read that book and they're so excited about it. And as we started talking, you know, it's the difference between level 4 and level 5 leadership. And I hear them start telling me about what they perceive the level 5 leadership to be, their takeaways from the book. My jaw drops. I'm like, dude, you missed the freaking boat on that one, man. What? So I would just say across the board, How to Win Friends and Influence People, simply summed up by this: 90% of life successes and failures are based upon your ability to deal with people. That's what Dale Carnegie said, and that's what that book's about.
Brilliant. Hey, I know that you're busy throughout the day, but I know you make time for self-development. Is there a podcast or a YouTube channel out there that really just kind of gives you that extra, tip, and that you just like recommend it to people no matter what? Is there something out there that you that influences you?
There is. It's a YouTube channel, and it's going to come off a little corny until you've actually been through the depths of hell on your journey, and you've understood that you needed somebody or something to breathe at least a little bit of life and hope into you, because things around you have gotten so dark. And before I tell you what it is, I'll say this. I made a comment one time 2 years ago at a board meeting. I wanted to set the record straight with everybody's attitude. And because confident and competent people are super full of opinions and advice, right? But sometimes they don't understand when they're not quite qualified to give it. And I made a statement one time. I said, until you've risked everything, you are not qualified to judge much of what you think you do. And so with that being said, there are times, depending on the journey you're going to go through, when it's going to get freaking dark, man. And there's not going to be anybody around you to pick you up. And so there's a YouTube channel that my son and I both like. It's called, I don't even quite know how to pronounce it. Mateusm. Mateusm? Anyway, it's this guy that I don't know who they are, but they just put these motivational, inspirational videos together, millions of views. And dude, it's programming. They put these videos together that's got the right music in the background, it's got the right verbiage, and it's positive programming when there's nobody else there left to inspire you, when you as the leader are trying to figure out the positive things to say, to continue painting the vision to your team, to continue to tell them it's going to be okay, it's going to be fine, but there's nobody left there to tell you that. And some people, here's what's interesting. I gave a talk a few weeks ago to a company, and as I was kind of talking about this, they had me come in and kind of give them a leadership seminar. As I was talking about this, I could see some of them kind of looking at me sideways like, oh, this is corny. And I summed it up with this. I'll sum it up here too. It's no big deal if this doesn't make sense to you. You just haven't gone through the hell yet that you think you have, and you haven't stretched yourself or pushed yourself as hard as you think you have yet, but you will.
Nice. One thing I want to bring up here is you talk about bringing in those positive influences when you need them. One thing I like to, just bring up to people is another thing you can do other than having yourself surrounded by a positive influence when you need to pick up is get rid of the garbage in your life. Get rid of those negative people, those people that are going to tell you, hey, that's going to be a pretty hard thing. I'm not sure if you're going to succeed with that. Or I don't think you can make it. Or I've never heard of anybody doing that. Or people that just, they would rather comment on, the hot thing in pop culture, or, the big vine that's going to make everybody laugh about something. Delete those people from your life. They're not making you money. They're not inspiring you. They're actually taking money from you and basically taking cortisone out of your body by the second, because you only have so many decisions you can make a day. So I really just kind of bring that up. How do you feel about that, Travis? Is that something you seem true in your space?
It has cost me multiple six figures because I did not get rid of the people that I should have gotten rid of when I should have gotten rid of them. And I made the mistake of confusing my heart and my head in my decision-making process when assessing people. And there were people that were making mistakes, and I didn't take it personally. They had some challenges in life with some stuff that they'd gone through, and it affected their decision-making process. It affected their actions. And I kept thinking I could rehab them, if you will, right? Not in business. That's called church. That's called a charity. You go do that elsewhere. There's no successful business that was ever run like a charity. Okay, now you got to run a charity like a business, but you get my point there, right? It has cost me multiple six figures keeping the wrong people around because I was assessing them with my heart, trying to be open-hearted instead of with an open mind. Now, and I'll say this, I'll wrap it up by saying this. Okay, so number one, a single car battery can only jumpstart other car batteries so many times before that car battery dies. That's a simple metaphor, all right? Simple analogy there. But I also said, I've been telling companies this as well, and it's interesting because it's like the light goes on over their head when I say this, like, oh, I never thought of that. And it's ridiculous, but it took me a while to figure it out too. So many people, when they're going through resumes and conducting interviews and doing constant assessment and evaluations and analysis on their staff as they're growing, are constantly trying to figure out, hey, what are we looking for? Focusing on what we're looking for in people. What do we need? What do we want? and they miss the big one on what do we not want. When you're looking to hire somebody, for example, from the very get-go, you've got to be as focused on what you are looking for as well as what you are not looking for in somebody, because you will save yourself a lot of heartache if you can identify that right up front.
That's ground bacon. It really sounds to me, Travis, like you've got quite the culture at your organization. I think that's something important for people to not just create a culture, but their teammates know what their culture is. They know what the vision statement is. They know what the mission statement is, and they know how to achieve it. And it's being upheld by, the top of the C-suite all the way down to, the bottom of a portion of, kind of your newer teammates. I refuse to use words like employee or subordinate. It never got me anywhere. I like to call guys my teammate or just my mate in general. And I think that's something that really it gives people the ability to bring their A game when they know where they stand on the team, because they're on the team at all times. So that's very powerful that you run that in your culture at work as well, Travis. So, I just want to give you an opportunity to tell our fans where they can find more about you. And we'll also cover this all in the show notes as well.
I'll be honest with you, I hope there's really not a lot of places where people can find out a lot more about me. But
not you, but Adventure Combat Ops.
So Adventure Combat Ops, yeah, go to the website. I think we've got a really good YouTube channel that's coming together. Some good entertaining videos on there, but also some good informational videos on there. One of them, like I said, I think it's called The Interview. Kind of addresses the business side of the house a little bit for anybody watching this that wants to get a little bit more on thought process and kind of hearing about what others have gone through they can learn from, because a smart person learns from their mistakes. A brilliant person learns from the mistakes of others so that they don't have to make those same mistakes. So there's that video there. There's another good video on there that talks about, it's about 4.5 minutes, talks about a lot of the psychology behind the special effects of what we put together here inside of our show. And quite a few people found that pretty interesting. Oh, so you don't just throw video cameras up and video projections and lights and set. Now there's a lot of our special ops, military, and combat experience background that we brought into developing this thing here. So our YouTube page and our website both are probably going to be able to get you the most information on Adventure Combat Ops as far as what's going on.
Perfect. We'll make sure that's all linked in the show notes as well. So, Travis, we always end our show with our guests giving their favorite quote. What's your quote?
My favorite quote, I've got a million of them. I think in light of the atmosphere here, I'm going to end this one here with the same, the podcast I did a few weeks ago for a group of national business owners there, the same one. Both of these have kind of got a little bit of the same kind of flavor to them. And I'll end with this, because really this is what it boils down to. If what you're doing isn't making somebody else's life better, you're wasting your time.
And that is solid gold right there, Travis. Hey, I just want to thank Travis Krauss being our guest here today. It's absolutely been an amazing, groundbreaking interview that's going to tell you and give you the tips to take massive action in both leadership development, business development, and just stepping out into the unknown. To cover a few things, surround yourself with successful people. Eliminate the negative people in your life. Travis, I can't tell you enough. I'm just honored to spend this time with you today. Thank you for being our guest today.
Hey, pleasure and honor is mine. And that's a two-way street. I accomplished some things in my career, my military career. Reality is I know what you accomplished in your career, and I can't hold a candle to that, man. I know what you've been through in combat. I know what you've been through as a Ranger leader. And more impressive than all of that, as impressive as that is standing alone, is the fact that you're one of the few guys that's able to transition out and pivot, like what you talked about, and do good things on the outside, take that and pay it forward. I'm super stinking impressed and super proud of you, man, for being able to take that mindset and apply it on the outside on a large scale as well. So keep rocking, brother. I'm excited for you.
Hey, thanks, mate. That's as always with you, Travis. That's first class. So that wraps up our show today. I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Stay tuned for more episodes of Uncommon Human Live. Thanks, and make it a great day.
Thanks, Jesse.